I am now joined by Town Administrator Paul Sagarino for another Zoom update or Administrator update. Paul, thanks for taking a couple minutes this Monday morning to talk to me. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Rich. How you doing? Thank you for having me. It's been a little while.
Has been, but that's all right. Since we've all been just sitting here in lockdown the entire time. So I understand that actually, contrary to that, you actually have a lot of people at Town Hall today. Talk about how the sort of reopening of Town Hall is going.
Well, so far so good, Rich. I think as everybody's aware, we've had a lot of employees continue to come to work to perform essential functions during the lockdown. So to keep the town going, I'm really proud of the employees. And today we have all our employees invited back in. We really have done a lot of work between John Sanchez and the facilities department, MIS, all with the approval of Susan Luminello and the Board of Health in order to, set the office up to comply with the CDC safety guidelines as we're moving forward. So we're really happy to have a full complement of employees back. Still going to be a while before we figure out the opening to the public. That aspect hasn't been clarified yet by the state, but we've had great people in our building servicing the residents throughout this pandemic. So we're really proud of those employees that have just been showing up every day to keep the town running and service residents, albeit in different ways typically than face-to-face. So today's the first day back, I'm sure, for everybody. I'm sure that, we'll have to work out some kinks, individual kinks within offices and stuff like that, but we anticipate that.
Sure, and I understand that you guys have some measures in place to keep people distanced, try to keep everybody, safe.
Yeah, Rich, we're using every available space in the town. We've moved employees out of offices to create more space and moved them down to the COA and to the Grandview. So we have people working in the town hall basement, in the lunchroom. So we've really gone a long way in terms of separating people, creating space, and we want everyone to feel safe and comfortable back in the office.
Excellent. Very good. And, as, certain things start to reopen in town, like, some of these non-essential businesses, as there has been termed during all of this, what are you hearing about as far as, some of the businesses in town starting to reopen?
Well, I think it's going to be slow. As you know, as you saw from the selectmen's meeting the other night, we're really working hard as a community to try to jumpstart these folks into getting back into business. Economic Development Director Melissa Tatakalis has been working with Kristen Kasner in the Planning Department and Andy Ungerson, the Building Commissioner, as well as members of the Planning Board and members of the Selectmen, just to try to see what ways we can help our businesses get started. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in restaurants wanting to get something going in the outside seating. That may involve, for us anyway, here in Burlington, sort of moving out into parking lots, which is a little different, than maybe they're doing in the city where they can move out onto the street. We're not really laid out like that, but we have a team that's working really, really hard, also with the Chamber of Commerce and Rick Parker, just to try to see what can the town do to sort of help people get up and running as quickly as possible, given the state guidelines.
Very good. Interesting to see how all this unfolds. So, we have a couple of important town events coming up. Just want to touch base real quick because we've had other reporting on it as well. But first, this Saturday is the town election. How is that going to look different as far as you can tell from, other years because of this situation?
My understanding from, that's the purview of the town clerk, and she's worked really hard to try to also set it up. One of the things a little different is really encouraging the mail-in voting for this election. I think that will eliminate the amount of people that come to the polls on that day. And I do believe she's done some different things where different precincts will be set up in different areas of the high school in order to try to keep people from congregating in particular areas and keep people separate and spread out as much as possible. There have been some really good examples of elections that have been run during the pandemic, and I know that Amy has taken every precaution to try to keep people safe. But I do believe that it'll still be a great day. It probably won't be as joyous a day of in terms of hanging around and talking to people. I think they'll be asking folks to sort of come in and vote and move along as opposed to catch up with their neighbors at this point in time. But I have full confidence in the system that Amy set up. That's going to be a very orderly, thoughtful, and safe election process.
Excellent. Yeah, so they're going to be using both the gyms, the regular rubber gym and then the wooden gym for like precincts 5 through 7.
Yep.
Understanding. So, like you said, keeping people spread out a little bit more than usual.
Mm-hmm.
And right on the heels of the town election, we have the annual, normally in May, town meeting, now in June. It looks like it's going to be an interesting process out on Varsity Field. Talk a little bit about the plans for that.
Well, again, this is, as everybody's aware, town meeting is under the purview of our town moderator, Bill Byer. He has also worked with Amy and myself very hard on this over the past month and trying to figure out, we've gone through a million different iterations of how we could possibly do this. The state provides an exemption for legislative bodies to have these kind of meetings. I know that you wouldn't expect us to have a gathering of this size, but in terms of doing that, the meeting's been moved out to the high school field. There'll be plenty of space there. It's in the evening, going to start a little bit earlier than we typically do, going to start up at 6 o'clock. And we're trying to reorder the warrant so that we can put the most crucial items to the front and get through those. We're also requesting that town meeting members reach out to us in advance as much as possible to have questions answered in order to try to cut down on the amount of questions at town meeting, where all the department heads are available to answer your questions. So please, if you're at home, read your warrant, get your questions to us as soon as possible so that we don't have to take up unnecessary time at the town meeting. Obviously, we'll be there and we'll be answering questions, but it's going to be a lot different than usual, where certainly, I think the goal would be to try to get through as much of town meeting as possible in that one night. So we'll be a little bit pressed for time, and I'm confident that with the support of our town meeting members and our residents, that we'll also be able to get through this very difficult occasion of a town meeting, in a very responsible fashion, and get through the business of the town in a way that is safe for everybody and allows us to continue operations on July 1st.
Now, following up on our last discussion, when you guys were preparing the warrant for town meeting, I know there were some capital projects that you were working with the department heads to sort of either see what could be postponed or, maybe till, the fall, or just at least, phased in over time. How's that process been going?
That process went great. As always, our department heads were able to step up. As you're aware, if a warrant article makes it all the way to this point where we're bringing it to the town meeting, it's already a very high and a very important expenditure for us. So I really thank the department heads for, taking a look at it. Everything that's been delayed is still very important to us, but I think that once department heads looked at the timing, they felt as though some of these things, based upon when we could actually start the projects and whatnot, with it, there was a little bit of a ability to move it forward into the future a little bit because of the way that the timing of the project was. But these are all very important initiatives, and again, we couldn't have done it without a cooperation. All the departments sort of looked at their things and said, you know what, this thing can wait till January, and we're very grateful for that, as we've been trying to, preserve as much free cash as possible due to the uncertainty that's going on in the economy and the budget. So I think if we get through town meeting as is, I think that we'll be very well positioned to handle whatever is thrown at us in the upcoming fiscal year. It's still going to be a challenge with a lot of uncertainty on state aid and local receipts in terms of the revenue sources for the town. So we got some difficult times ahead, but I'm confident that we put ourselves in the best possible position as we head forward into that uncharted waters.
Excellent. And last thing, one bit of good news for residents, as things are opening up and some of the concerns around COVID-19 are easing slightly. The Department of Public Works has made the decision that, and John Sanchez, the head of it, that, the full outdoor watering ban is not necessary anymore. Talk a little bit about that decision.
Well, early on in this process, Rich, as everybody's aware by now, there was a real risk of losing substantial amount of employees to quarantine, even if they weren't sick, if they weren't available to come to work. So one of the areas that we really saw as a risk for us was our water treatment plants. Water treatment plant operators are difficult to come by, and we wanted to put ourselves in a position where we wouldn't have the entire shifts of treatment plant operators be quarantined and lose the ability to make water. So for that period of time during the real surge of the pandemic, we asked for the full water ban so that we could focus the schedules on one plant and try to keep that running and stagger the schedule so the employees wouldn't come in contact with each other. As we've made it through here a little bit further into the pandemic, and everybody has a much better idea what quarantine means and et cetera, and social distancing, we feel a lot more confident in our ability to continue to make water. We're still, as always, we're in a very difficult situation, one bad water break away from sort of losing the system. But we've been working really hard with the permitting process with the MWRA, and we're hopeful, that we can start building that pipe, hopefully the fall, to at least service our short-term needs with MWRA water. So there's a lot of positives there, but it's a very tricky situation, and we appreciate the resident support. As everybody is aware, our residents really do enjoy taking care of their lawns and keeping their properties beautiful, and we certainly understand what a burden it is when they don't have the ability to use water as they do in other communities. But hopefully we're not too far away for having a long-term solution for the town's water issues.
The short takeaway is people can now, every other day, when the calendar is even or odd based on their address, can now water their lawns and get them ready for summer.
The usual water ban.
Yeah, exactly. The even odd system. All right. Well, very good. I appreciate you taking some time today to, bring us up to date on these topics. And, I hope the reopening of Town Hall goes smoothly.
I appreciate you having me, Rich, and look forward to seeing you in person at some point in the future.
Yes. Hopefully not too distant of the future.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.